So
Yeah, it kind of
without further
dovetails
ado,
perfectly into what we're talking about, just showing where kind of the dollars and cents are going. So yeah, this one it's called "Guess Who's the Biggest Investor in Self-Driving Tech," and the title says it rhymes with Bamberg. I mean, Bambung. Yeah, sure, okay, whatever.
ooh,
Yeah, exactly. Basically, it's a so the study comes from they're called Leasing Options.
mhm,
It's a British company that did a study, and it reveals basically how much investment's been done since 2014. It covers 2014 to 2021.
mhm.
The total is 44 billion. Quite a bit of money, sure.
Bam.
And out of the top 10, five of them are automakers you would certainly recognize the name. They're makers. That's no surprise there. But the top spot is actually captured by Samsung,
What the?
which is a bit of a like, wait, what? But then you go down and you look at it, basically, and it's maybe worth just to say that they haven't invested anything since 2017, and that was the 8 billion in 2017, and that was when they bought U.S. car infotainment and audio developer Harman. Uh, so I'm sure there's a long game there, and maybe since we haven't really seen, we don't really know exactly what it is just yet,
Mhm,
but that was 8 billion all at once back in 2016.
mhm.
So there's that. Samsung at the top of the list. Interesting.
Really?
Um, Out of the other ones we said, the top five or top in the top 10, the five you would certainly know: Toyota, General Motors, Hyundai, Volkswagen, and Honda.
Mhm.
Talked about Honda a moment ago. Some of those other, if you kind of follow where the dollars go, um, for example, like Uber and Lyft, they're in here, but not by name. A while back, Uber sold its self-driving division to Aurora, a company called Aurora, and actually, surprisingly enough, Amazon invested in Aurora,
Mhm.
and you'll also see that actually Amazon's on this list, which is possibly another thing that maybe is a bit interesting.
And Apple.
One of the people from Waymo, if you know who Waymo was, that company that does self-driving as well, they're over at Aurora, so that maybe too. But yeah, man, what do you think?
I think it's incredible that you don't see Tesla on this list, number 1. Number 2, I see that Microsoft is so late to the game in my mind, but they've put in less than $1 billion. But it's the staggering amount that Samsung has put in above and
Yeah,
beyond.
that's what I want to say
That's
all at once.
massive.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it's still valid. Yeah.
But it doesn't make a difference because they dwarf everybody on the list. Toyota, which is in the space already of actually producing, self-driving cars or wanting to produce self-driving cars. Now, I understand Samsung's point of view.
Sure.
They're a chip manufacturer, right? They definitely have their investment strategies aligned with we want to do things that are going to definitely give us an advantage towards the circuit boards and stuff that we're going to sets that we're going to need for the future. That makes logical sense. The company that I would say that people don't estimate enough that has the power in this group. There's three of them. Number one, VW Group, I think, is their strategies are coming along stronger than a lot of people think. Number one. Number two, Volvo is offering a self-driving vehicle that is going to have the LiDAR and other technologies, which I think people underestimate. And lastly, Apple. And I'm going to tell you why Apple is one of the bigger players than people actually think about, is because now that Apple's actually in the process of building their own silica and they're actually making that M1 chip more power efficient and more powerful and bringing more cores on board, like they just announced with the new MacBook
Yeah, I just
Pros.
saw it this morning actually.
Yeah, that chipset is strong, and I don't think people know the potential of what's really going to be able for them to do with it in the not too distant future. So I think those are the three most undersold. Why Tesla's not on that list and how much money they've actually invested is beyond me.
Well, what do you think about just kind of going with what you said about Apple though? And there's going to be an Apple car. I mean, we've hearing that for years, off and on.
You
It's kind of
know,
like the Dyson car. We know that didn't happen, and that was before auto driving and all that. But nevertheless,
I'm still waiting for Apple glasses. I'm still waiting for
you know,
Apple this, Apple that.
we did a whole segment on Apple vaporware anyway.
Yeah.
So
It
yeah.
happens that Apple has this contingency plan that they want to be maybe in the conversation of every marketplace that they enter, but they're not actually the focal point, and it gives them the availability to see what others do and then maybe enter a little bit later. Because let's face it, their phones are always a couple of years behind in certain technological advancements that other manufacturers have, and then they land something like, I don't know, an infrared sensor on the phone that nobody knows what they're doing with it yet for augmented reality, and maybe it's got a huge payoff later on or
Right,
not.
right.
It's never count out Apple because they have the opportunity to innovate. Do they always innovate? No, but they have the opportunity to innovate, right? That would be my point.
Yeah. Yep.
What about you? What about Google?
Well,
Because I
needs
don't.
to be seen a little bit to see where Google. I guess saying a little bit about that. I mean, tomorrow there's actually an event for Google's. Well, whatever they're going to announce. We know there's a phone in there for sure.
Mhm.
We'll see what happens there. Their new chip is made in house
Right.
partially, and we'll see how powerful it is really out in the open. I've been seeing some benchmarks, and again, they're just pre-benchmarks. They could be just not even optimized, whatever. But some of the benchmarks from the new Google phone saying that it's actually not as fast as Samsung's. I think it's the 888. I might be 888 chip, but nevertheless, we'll see if it has any applications.
But they're not even on this list yet, though, right? Google's not here. They're not
No, I don't see
represented
it on
as
the list. No.
no, and that's the thing. So I mean, they're Google's always been rumored to have a car, right?
Yeah, it's Waymo. And yeah, it's not on the list. And actually, when I was telling Mike, and I don't know the answer to this, it may just not be something that they were able to find in
Mm-hmm.
Waymo and then Tesla. No, they're spending money.
They have
and
to.
we don't know. They're not on the list. So I wouldn't just say, oh, they're not on the list. It's definitely not that much.
Mm-hmm.
I just telling you guys, we'd have to try to find out more information to see actually how much actually investment they've done since, let's say, 2014 to get apples to apples comparison.
So even in the top 10, let's look top 10, right? You have Samsung, obviously, which is the biggest surprise of the entire list at 8 billion, Toyota at 5 billion, General Motors at 4,850,000,000. You have SoftBank, which actually is a conglomerate that's actually working on a couple of different variants in there with about 3.5 billion, Hyundai 3 billion, VW Group 2.7 billion. You have Amazon at 2.1 billion plus, and then Aptiv, which is 2 billion, and then Honda. And it's really interesting because we cover a lot of the self-driving technologies. Because what was it, the Dream Cloud, that was just introduced by Lucid last week.
Dream Air.
Dream Air, whatever.
Oh, you mean the tech?
Yeah, they're what's it called?
Dream Drive.
Dream
Pro.
Drive. Dream Drive.
Yep.
And we also took a look at what was one of the other ones for Tesla and their self-driving capability. And look, everybody wants to get in on the game, and we know that level 3, level 4, level 5 is a big discussion. And there's lots of people out there that think that level 5 will never happen as well. And then lastly, I want to see within the next 2 years another study done to see how people trust the ability of self-driving cars, because just 7-8 years ago, the market was overwhelmingly against self-driving cars. And they've seen almost a 30 and 40% increase in people willing to adapt that technology and take it on in the recent couple of years. So that's a big statement to see where all the money could be installed.
Right, and I see that kind of parallel because just as we talk about with air taxis, there's all the hurdles of air taxis structure to sound or noise pollution. But going straight along with that, also there's the will people actually trust enough to get on board
Mm-hmm.
when they know there's no pilot on board, or
Yeah.
it's fully autonomous or mostly autonomous.
Sure.
That analog goes straight across the aisle to cars, and a lot of the people talk about it in the comments as well, or a few people talk about it. That level 5 on the street is not like, let's quote, some type of level 5 in the air.
Right.
It's a 3D space versus 2D space, but I agree, right? You're not going to have somebody step off a curb and you're going to have to slam on the brakes when you're flying around in the air because it's not a thing.
No, understood. Yeah.
So I get that. So it's
Interesting.
we'll have to see how apt people are to get on board. And leave us in the comments below. What do you guys think? If somebody said tomorrow full self-driving works, level 5, they've shown it in plenty of videos, it works, it's for sale. Would you buy it? And then would you ever use it, or would you put your kid in it and go somewhere? Right? Making it kind of saying, oh, would you do that to your grandma, or would you take your grandmother? Kind of that, your family. Would you put somebody else other than you on board, and would you trust it enough? So
yeah. Okay, yeah, Corey's audio said, well, we'll talk about that in a minute. All right, let us know what you think in the comments below. Like, subscribe, follow, and we'll go from there. Yeah, your audio is going out when you move away from the mic for some reason.
Can we turn it up on?
I
know it's not volume. It's probably the noise gate. I get that.
All right, let's do this. We'll change that a little bit. So, see if go ahead, give me an audio.
Yeah, testing. I'll. So if I'm talking and back, does it go?
Yeah, it's still. Hold on, it's still. Let's do this then.
CF Knight says while we're doing audio evaluation here, I would not be an early adopter. So yeah, if you're talking about the air taxi stuff for sure, and for that reason, actually on cars as well. If level 5 was approved by some manufacturer, whoever it might be, and then even the DOT or whoever wants to sign off on it says, yep, fine, whatever. there's going to be the same question marks as far as like insurance, liability, all that's going to be the same. And then of course, yeah, sure, how safe
There you go.
would you, if it's, how safe is it be? But anyway, we'll have to see.
We'll have to see. I mean, as far as early adapting goes, I'm a pretty big early adapter, but to me, it just kind of seems like
Early adopter versus early adopter that can kill you.
well, wait. Okay, so I'm used to being in an aircraft that I also know that has autopilot and had
Sure.
it active with many people in the back that could be.
It's been through rigorous training though, and you know how to troubleshoot failures.
As long as I knew I could deactivate the thing in a heartbeat just by stepping on the brakes, and it would be in override mode, just like a cruise control, I would have no problem with it. Now, if we had heard reports about the fact that that wasn't a system that was implemented or it didn't work, where people went to go take back control and it failed, well, then
That's
you got
another
a
thing too,
different-
just to be clarified, right? I wouldn't sit in the back seat of any car that says level 5 because I'm just not there yet. I would never trust that. And on the second half of that note too, if you're not a pilot or anybody who's been around planes or anything, when an autopilot on an airplane doesn't mean you can't do anything. It doesn't mean
Yeah.
you can totally relax.
Oh
and-
no, it'll do
and,
stuff that you don't want to do
and,
sometimes.
and give it full control, and that's not how that works. So
Yeah.
you're still there to monitor and make
Mhm.
sure, and you can decouple or turn it off if any time you need to, and there's certainly times when you would. So it's just something to know.
I think we did a video a long time ago about integration and automation and how some people have a problem understanding that it's going to be a lot more complex to get humans behind the wheel to understand the technology that they bought without some significant level of training.
User error, yeah.
Yeah, because user error is going to increase, but then the problem is going to be deciphering down to the systematic set of events that took place, and wasn't an actual automation problem where the actual automation failed, or did the human cause an error for the automation not to be used specifically in the way that it should have, like A, falling asleep and not monitoring,
Yeah,
B, climbing in the back seat and expecting it to drive 95 miles an hour, and then the system
Because
switched
of
off
reasons.
because it doesn't have a seat sensor or something.
Yeah.
Lots of different things there. So, all right, we got to move on.
Yep. Thanks for the comments.
Thanks for the comments,
Yeah,
though, because
yeah.
it makes the conversation way more
This is what it's all
interesting. Sure. Okay, this one is finally coming to you from a company called